Do you want to know how a restraining order against me left me all alone? It wasn't even my fault, let me tell you. They weren't there, yet everyone acts like I'm this monster who made this whole thing up. They have no idea what it's like to live with someone who constantly drives you insane. I'm 29-year-old Crystal, and because the system is biased against women like me, my life essentially fell apart 6 months ago. I was married to Dwayne for 3 years, and we were together for 5. Because of the adorable pictures, the posts, about our vacations and everything else, everyone believed that we were the ideal couple. However, the situation was very different behind closed doors. He was always working late, saying it was for a major project, but when I asked to check his phone, he would act strangely. For example, why are you so protective if you have nothing to hide? He would question me about every text I received in the interim. What a double standard. Brandon, one of my coworkers, knew what I was going through. Every time Brandon texted me, Dwayne would make these snarky remarks, and he disliked him without cause. However, Dwayne had a coworker named Melissa who was always phoning him after work for work-related matters. I could see right through that. Slender blonde, please. However, I became abruptly controlling and paranoid after calling it out. That girl was a perfect example of the kind of homewrecker who waits for her opportunity while feigning innocence. After Dwayne received that promotion, things really started to go south. All of a sudden, he had boundaries and opinions. Previously, he would simply comply with my requests to maintain harmony. He was now asserting his rights and expressing his needs, which was essentially code for refusing to give in to my demands. He even stopped watching our shows with us and began going to the gym 3 times a week. He had the audacity to accuse me of holding him back after I informed him that he was self-centered. His ability to remain composed in the face of disagreement was the worst. He would just stand there, all rational, dissecting everything I said, as if we were in court or something, while I would be crying and telling him how he was hurting me. He would then claim that I was bringing up the past and ignoring the current issue when I brought up the fact that he had forgotten my birthday 2 years prior, as if my sentiments about the past were unimportant. Dwayne began criticizing me for what he described as my manipulative techniques around 6 months prior to things blowing up. Excuse me? I wasn't influencing people just because I became upset during arguments. That's just the way I think. I'll confess that I checked his phone a couple of times while he was taking a shower, but that's usual. All of a sudden, he's armchair psychoanalyzing me, saying things like, "You're changing the subject again," or "You always bring up your childhood trauma when I try to address a specific issue." Everyone does that. They just choose not to acknowledge it. And I discovered these lengthy text exchanges with Ryan, his gym buddy, about how he was last seen, establishing limits and stopping me from stepping all over him. That betrayal? Can you believe it? However, he turned the tables on me for violating his privacy when I challenged him. The disparity in treatment was unbelievable. He could go outside for work calls throughout dinner, and I was expected to just accept it, but I had to explain every single text I received at night. In the meantime, he was constantly messaging that Melissa girl about quarterly predictions or whatever. I mean, Brandon understood me. When I was having a rough day, he would send me encouraging notes about how undervalued I was and how any man would be fortunate to have me. Friendly stuff only. However, Dwayne made a big deal out of incorrect boundaries and emotional affairs. As the case got really terrible, he even had the audacity to claim that I was keeping Brandon as a backup. A girl needs her individuality. Therefore, I suggested that we keep separate accounts when Dwayne started acting strangely around money. But since he was earning a little more, he had been paying a little more into our joint expenses. Then, in an attempt to make me feel like a kid again, he began questioning me about these small purchases I had made. He claimed that was different because we had already agreed on it when I brought up the instance in which I paid for all of our costs for 3 months while he was changing jobs. What a handy distinction. I tried the quiet treatment the night before everything happened. This is typically my nuclear option, which would result in an apology from him within hours. "I'm here when you're ready to talk about it directly," he said instead, and then he fell asleep. I realized then that I had to do something spectacular to convince him that he could no longer ignore me. Here's what transpired on the night that truly made a difference. Dwayne discovered the shopping bags I had concealed in my car's trunk. They included only a few shoes and purses that were on sale. Not even full price, incidentally. However, he pretended that I had committed a federal offense. Dwayne never yelled, which was nearly worse than him. He continued to talk about financial infidelity as if it were a genuine thing while standing there composed and looking unhappy. He said, "We agreed to discuss any purchases over $200, Crystal," with a condescending vibe. "This is the third time this month you've hidden expenses from me." I yelled, "It was a sale!" back. 50% off. I was saving us money, and it's my paycheck anyway, so I don't see why I need your permission to buy things. He took that grating big breath. It's not about permission. It's about honesty and our shared financial goals. We're trying to save for a house, remember? Oh, so I'm just supposed to not enjoy my life at all? Just work and save and never have anything until some far-off future date while you get to? Go to the gym and hang out with your friends and buy whatever protein powders and gadgets you want? My gym membership is $30 a month and we discussed and budgeted for it," he said in a calm voice. "That's more than $900. That number infuriated me, Crystal. Do you think I'm lying?" I lost my temper. "No, I'm saying that you concealed the fact that you had broken our agreement from me. Once more, perhaps I concealed it because I anticipated your reaction, which made me feel insignificant and foolish over a few shopping bags. The habit of concealing things and then becoming defensive rather than simply speaking to me is what's bothering me, not the buying." I detested it when he used the word pattern, as if he had been mentally recording all of my alleged errors. "Do you wish to discuss patterns?" I yelled. "What about your habit of treating me like a child, making me feel nuts, or even texting that slender, blonde coworker constantly, all of these things?" He rolled his eyes, in fact. "You are aware that Melissa is married and has 3 children. This is precisely what I'm referring to. Shifting the topic and leveling charges rather than dealing with the real problem." I felt cornered and confined. He wasn't battling fairly. He remained composed as I became more agitated, giving the impression that I was the unstable one. I reached for my phone at that moment. "What do you do?" he asked, seeming suddenly worried. "I'm calling the police," I said, startled by what I had said, but determined now that I had done so. "I don't feel safe with you right now." His expression shifted. He appeared truly surprised for the first time. "Crystal, what are you talking about? This is crazy." I was already phoning, but now I'm standing across the room talking about concealed transactions. Something in me suddenly exploded. I needed him to quit ignoring my emotions and to take me seriously. I sounded nervous and unsteady when the dispatcher responded. I muttered into the phone, "Please help. I'm scared of what my spouse might do because he's becoming really hostile. Please send someone." The police arrived in 10 minutes or less, with 2 officers, a younger woman named Officer Ramirez and an older male named Officer Bennett. Something inside of me changed the instant they knocked, like, oh crap, this just got extremely real. But I couldn't quit now. I started crying as soon as I opened the door, not intentionally at first, but as I got started, I knew it was helping me, so I followed through. I made my voice seem shaky and brittle. Wiping my eyes, I added, "Thank you for coming so quickly." Officer Bennett went up to Dwayne, who was still standing precisely where he had been, and appeared utterly confused, while Officer Ramirez escorted me to the couch. "What transpired tonight, ma'am?" I started crying even more when Officer Ramirez asked in a soft voice. I said, "We were arguing about money," which was accurate, and he became so enraged that he started tossing objects and blocking the doorway to prevent me from leaving. That wasn't entirely accurate. At one time, he had been standing close to the doorway without obstructing it, and he had placed his glass down very forcefully on the counter. However, that's how it is. I wondered at the time if he had threatened, you physically or verbally, she inquired. Here's where I went a bit too far. "I'd regret pushing him this far," he added. I stated, which was entirely out of context, even though it was technically accurate. He hadn't stated anything about our current dispute, but rather about me forcing him to see his supervisor about a promotion. "Has there ever been any history of physical violence?" Officer Ramirez inquired. I paused, aware that I was going too far. I carefully answered, "He hasn't hit me, leaving the inferred but unspoken part out. However, when he gets upset, he occasionally hits walls. Tonight, he was hurling objects, and I was just worried about what would happen next. Even though the wall-punching scenario was entirely fictitious, it seemed realistic at the time. I noted that he takes effort to keep his wrath hidden from other people. He is skilled at projecting composure in social situations. I've previously been hesitant to call in part because of this. It explained why he wasn't behaving like an abuser in front of them, but it was still another complete lie. Officer Ramirez answered, "I understand, ma'am." The word abuser struck me strangely. Many abusers are very good at maintaining a public image. The officer was now using the term abuser, even though I hadn't used it myself. I quickly pushed the small flash of guilt away. I convinced myself that he was emotionally abusive and always made me feel crazy. This was simply his karma coming full circle. I once caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror as Officer Ramirez moved aside to speak with her partner. My mascara was smudged just enough to make me look convincingly distressed. When the cops escorted Dwayne out, I felt a strange mixture of joy and emptiness. I didn't realize that the body cams were capturing everything, even me checking my reflection. And worse, a moment when I believed no one could hear and I said, "That'll teach him to ignore me." Despite how quiet the house was, I immediately ignored it and went to work solidifying my version of events. I immediately gave my best friend Jen a call and told her the same fabricated narrative I had told the cops, with a few extra details, added for emphasis. I called my mother next, followed by my sister. Dwayne's aggression increased with each telling, making the situation riskier. I wrote a vague post on Facebook that evening, expressing gratitude for safety, saying that sometimes the people you think you know turn out to be strangers. Without specifically accusing Dwayne of anything online, I knew that would pique people's interest and cause them to become worried tonight. I received dozens of encouraging texts and remarks when I got up the following morning. Having all that, approval was satisfying. Troy, my ex, who had been enjoying my posts for months, and I even got back in touch. Whatever it was that Dwayne's emotional inaccessibility had caused me to reach this point. Officer Ramirez followed up with a call 2 days later. She requested that I make an official statement at the station. Something didn't feel right about the station. Officer Rami, Rez wasn't as warm as she'd been at my house. We've reviewed the footage from our body cameras, she added in a neutral voice. My stomach fell, but I remained calm when I said, "And there seemed to be some inconsistencies in your statement. You said that your husband was throwing things during your argument, but our video shows that he only moved a glass, which he sat down on the counter." "Well, it felt violent the way he did it," I said, my voice growing louder. "And there were other things before you arrived." "What do you mean? I told you exactly what happened, Miss Peterson. You added that he prevented you from leaving by blocking the doorway. He was moving around the room. Just because he wasn't blocking it when you got there doesn't mean he wasn't before." Officer Ramirez gave me a steady stare. "Miss Peterson, filing a false police report is a serious offense," he said, referring to the video, which shows him standing about 8 feet from any escape. He was intimidating me. "Your husband has provided us with text messages from earlier. That day," Officer Ramirez continued, "messages where you threatened to make him sorry if he didn't stop questioning you about hidden purchases." "That was just an expression," I said. "People say things like that all the time." The cameras also captured some concerning moments when you thought you weren't being observed. I was emotional and scared. I insisted that perhaps I exaggerated. "Some details, but the essence of what happened was true. It has no significance." "Miss Peterson, we will not be filing charges against your husband in light of our review. He has actually been informed that he has the right to file charges against you for making a false report, even though he has stated that he does not want to do so at this time." After a week passed without hearing from Dwayne, I received papers asking for a restraining order against me. The petition contained text messages and police body cam transcripts dating back months, which he claimed demonstrated a pattern of emotional manipulation and false accusations. I called Jen in a panic, saying, "He's trying to get a restraining order against me. Is this unbelievable?" I wasn't prepared for Jen's remark. "Crystal, I saw Dwayne yesterday." My blood turned cold as he showed me the body cam footage. "What?" Why would he show you, and how did he ever acquire that tea? He claimed to be aware that I was your best buddy and that you had misled me. Her voice sounded strange, distant. And you trusted him more than me? Your best friend for 10 years? He wanted me to know his side. I couldn't help but make the charge. Chris, the video was very obvious. My support system broke down one by one. Dwayne had reportedly been methodical, reaching out to our closest friends and family with his evidence. You said some things about teaching him a lesson when you thought the cameras weren't recording, and the stuff about him throwing things and blocking the door. None of that was on the video. By the time the restraining order hearing rolled around, even my sister was sending me links to therapists. I tried to keep up my victim narrative in court, but it collapsed when they showed the Bodycam footage. I was checking my reflection when I thought no one was watching, and I was muttering to myself, "That'll teach him to ignore me," as the judge's face became more serious with each clip. My lawyer told me not to challenge the order, saying, "The evidence is overwhelming," and implying that if I contest it and lose, which you will, the judge might order a psychological evaluation. Would you like that to appear on your record? I was startled when the judge issued a 1-year restraining order against me, prohibiting me from being within 500 feet of Dwayne, his business, or our home, which he had obtained as part of the interim divorce settlement. I was also prohibited from contacting him via text, phone, email, or third parties. I was summoned to my boss's office 2 days later and told, "I'm going to be honest with you, Crystal. We've heard some alarming rumors regarding your recent personal circumstances. That's confidential." "It's not related to my job," I objected. Ordinarily, I'd agree, but when 3 clients call to say they may no longer want to work with you specifically because they've heard you filed a false police report against your husband, well, that makes it our business. Who informed them? About that? Defamation is what that is. Here, I was the victim. No one told them anything, Sharon responded cautiously, raising my voice once more. Crystal, the hearing was public, and the restraining order is public record. The irony wasn't lost on me. All those hidden shopping bags had eaten up savings I now desperately needed. I was put on administrative leave while they assessed the situation, which everyone knew was just a prelude to being fired. Without my income, I couldn't afford to keep my apartment. In less than a month, everything fell apart, and I was living on the couch of a distant cousin in Houston, the only person who would take me in. I had to take a job at a call center, which was a step down from my previous job, and my credit was damaged by the divorce proceedings. 6 months later, I'm still dealing with the fallout, and I finally managed to scrape together enough money for a small studio apartment, but I'm drowning in debt. The restraining order is still in effect, and even though we're now in different cities, it follows me like a shadow. Last month, I applied for a better job, but the employer ran a background check and inquired about it during the interview. Meanwhile, Dwayne is thriving. I shouldn't know this. I'm not supposed to be checking his social media, but I made a fake account just to see. He got that promotion he wanted, sold our house for a profit, and the most infuriating part, he's dating someone new, some perky fitness instructor named Cass. With perfect hair and one of those annoying inspirational Instagram accounts between us, that girl is definitely putting on an act. No one's that perfect. Just last week, I saw them together in a post from a mutual friend's wedding. They looked sickeningly happy, and all our old friends were there. People who abandoned me when things got tough. People who chose his side without even giving me a chance to explain. My therapist, yes, I finally got one, but only because it was court-mandated, says I need to take accountability for my actions, that I should reflect on patterns of behavior that led to this situation. Whatever, she doesn't understand what it's like to be me, to feel so intensely, to need validation so desperately that you do anything to be heard. She wants me to admit that I lied to the police, that I manipulated my friends, that I created this entire situation. But it's not that simple. Yes, I exaggerated some things, but only because Dwayne made me feel crazy for so long. He pushed me to that breaking point with his cold logic, his boundaries, and his refusal to just give me what I needed. Everyone acts like I'm some monster, but they don't see how I was provoked, how his calm dismissal of my feelings was a form of gaslighting, how his reasonable behavior was actually just a way to make me look irrational in comparison. So here I am, sitting in my sad little apartment, eating microwave ramen because I can't afford real food, scrolling through photos of my old life on my phone, all because of one moment, one impulse, one phone call that I can't take back. The restraining order expires in 6 months, not that it matters. Dwayne has made it clear he wants nothing to do with me ever again. Our divorce was finalized with minimal contact through lawyers. He didn't even fight me on the few things I asked. For in the settlement, probably just to be done with me faster. Sometimes I think about reaching out to Dwayne, trying one more time to make him understand my side. But what would I even say? Sorry I called the cops on you and lied about you being abusive and ruined your reputation until that body cam footage proved I was making it all up. Yeah, right. The truth is, a part of me still believes my own story. The version where I'm the victim, where Dwayne pushed me to the edge, where none of this is really my fault. It's easier that way because if I start admitting I was wrong about this, then what else have I been wrong about? How much of my life has been built on convenient fictions I tell myself? My mom stopped talking to me last month, saying she couldn't enable my delusions anymore. My sister followed suit. Even Brandon ghosted me after the court hearing. So now it's just me alone with my thoughts, trying to piece together a life from the wreckage of my own making. But I'm still not sorry, not really. Everyone betrayed me. The police, my friends, even the legal system. They all sided with Dwayne because he's better at playing the game and better at appearing rational and collected. They don't understand that some people just feel things more intensely, need more reassurance, and require more attention. So that's my story. From picture-perfect wife to social pariah with a restraining order, all because I called the police. During an argument, those stupid body cams showed my lies. If there's a lesson here, I haven't learned it, and honestly, I probably never will.